Hi, Mr. Moore. Thank you so much for joining us. This is obviously a shocking story. I know fans of Alaskan bush people have largely been following this through the family's social media accounts over the past couple of days. I think we're still waiting here for the official coroner's report. Before we go through the events of the past few days and your role in helping to recover Matt Brown's body, could you just give us a brief background on your work with search and rescue?
Sure. For the last 5 or 6 years now, I formed a loose group of volunteers that is able to partake in assisting sheriffs and other SAR groups in locating missing Indigenous and local people that we've known for all these years out of our county here in Okanogan County. And
Fantastic.
it started because of a boy they couldn't find in the river, the same river, for about 3 years. And after that, I realized that this was needed for us to group together to protect and overlook our elders and our children.
Absolutely. And did you know Matt Brown at all, and how far away are you from where this search and rescue effort was?
Well, I do know Matt, and I do know a few of his family members pretty well. And as a matter of fact, by coincidence, I guess you'd call it, on a search I was involved with for an Indigenous elder. I actually seen Matt, and I asked him if he'd like to be involved in using his platform to exploit the situation. And on that day, he was a little bit of disarray. Not quite himself, and he said this isn't the time, and I understood what he was saying. But with that said, the last time I seen him was about 2 weeks, 3 weeks before, about 2 weeks before this incident.
So obviously you were very well aware that he'd battled demons over the years. You know, this must obviously be heartbreaking though for someone that you knew personally, for this to be the end result.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my heart goes to the family, of course, and those who loved him. And, my deepest condolences to all of them. But, yeah, it's definitely a bit of a heartbreaking situation.
Is this the first time you'd ever recovered somebody that you knew personally?
Well, most of the people I look for, I know, or I know their family. And like I said, I basically live on a reservation, the Colville Reservation of Washington State. And I grew up with most of these people. And if I don't know them, I know all their relatives. So in most cases, I know them directly or all their relations.
Oh, gosh. And so just talk us through what day this began and how you first got involved. Who was it that first called you?
Sure. So on 5/27, I believe it was May 27th, I seen a Facebook report by a lot of my friends in the area stating that they, and people who know Matt personally, stated that they had seen Matt in a state of confusion. They didn't understand what was happening to him. And I got another Facebook post saying that he's walking down the middle of the street. Looks like he's trying to get hit by a vehicle. And another personal friend, not only of his family, but a very personal friend of mine, called me and told me that Matt said he was on a mission from Jesus. And we had no clue what any of this meant. And then the next thing you know, I see the official report from the sheriff's department stating that a witness had seen Matt and then seen him face down in the river after hearing a sound. And from that point, I knew that the sheriff's department and their SAR would get involved, and we really hoped that they would yield results, but we also hoped that it wasn't Matt, of course,
Absolutely. So at what point did you yourself then get involved? And is it a case of the family ring you, or you just offer your services, or does the sheriff get involved? Do you wait for them to do as much as they can before you get involved? How does it usually work?
Well, yeah, I definitely want to wait till the sheriffs conduct their searches. I don't want to get in their way or potentially taint tracks or articles or anything that could reference where he might have been. So, and that's our first priority, is not getting in the sheriff's way and hopefully assisting them. And with that said, I immediately, on when the sheriffs did conduct their search, which I believe was on 5/27. Oh, no, 5/28 and 5/29, May 28th and May 29th. From what I read out of their report, they conducted a search, and it didn't yield results. So I started using my Facebook platform, which I normally use for communicating with many concerned community citizens and friends. And so normally I get an overwhelming response, hundreds and hundreds of people. In this case, for some reason, I had 4 people contact me. That's not normal. And at least in my past 5 years of experience.
Why did you think that was?
I really don't know. I don't understand it. One of the family members reached out because I had actually contacted another group of SAR people that I've recently come into contact with, a very large professional Army-based outfit called Find 911, and they walked me through the communications part and how to communicate with a group, and and I used them and their professionalism to contact Noah, and which is the brother of Matt, of course. And Noah said that he would sign the release for allowing us to go forward and look for him, because Find 911 requires a release form. And so Noah was willing to sign right away and to get his brother found. And so that's how we got started.
And how was he at that point? He must have been devastated and distraught, desperate for answers.
Absolutely, he was distraught, in a real surreal situation. Those are his words, directly, and which I can understand, and in total disbelief, mostly because he said, I'm pretty sure it's not my brother, but we need to find whoever it is, because that's somebody's son, that's somebody's baby. He goes, whoever it is, we need to find him and we need to locate him. And that was Noah's situation at that moment.
And despite the issues that he had, does that weigh in at all? Somebody's background, and obviously he's had many run-ins with the law. He's been accused of sexual assault. Do you think of things like that on your team, or does it not matter?
Well, for me personally, the farthest from God and the first, we look for the most distant people from love, and a matter of fact, if they tell me he's a druggie and an alcoholic, and we're looking for him first and foremost. My whole search and rescue is kind of based upon a vision that I had, a vision with God, of course, and not to get too in depth, but basically the first shall be last, the last shall be first kind of a deal. And with that said, and me honestly having no background or knowledge of any of his records or what he's done or hasn't done, I've got no knowledge of that. The only knowledge I have of Matt is my personal run-ins with him. And I really remember the first time I met him with his girlfriend. I really remember thinking, wow, what a personable guy, what a great-hearted person, because you can feel immediately that he had a great big heart, and a really caring individual. And those are my only recollections of him. I do know the family personally, and we never discuss any type of personal. At least I don't. And and of course I don't watch television, so I'm not real formal with um, the show or any shows for that matter.
Did they tell you the last time that they'd spoken to him and what his state of mind was?
The family?
Mm-hmm.
No, really, my only contacts with Noah, because I had no other family member was involved besides Noah with the SAR, and if anything, he was being a spokesman and trying to represent, and we had no. No, we were just really straight to the point on information and him wanting information. And that's really all the communications that we had.
And how many volunteers did you bring together, and were you yourself there?
Yeah.
And talk us through what equipment you used. I hear you even had a drone, different boats.
Yes. The four, let me see, the four people that were interested in helping were all friends of Matt's directly, and friends of some of the other family members and local people from the Oroville community. And basically we had four people, and they brought whatever we could find, which were kayaks from Walmart. I mean, we literally had 2 kayaks and a little narrow fishing boat. And matter of fact, I felt that I was too big to get in the fishing boat and to assist because, I'm a pretty big guy. And so the owner of the equipment, Mr. Charlie McNeil, he and his wife, Danielle, and one other girl named Sue Brazil, they know that river well. We all know that river extremely well. I've been swimming in it since the 1970s. We know the terrain, and we know our equipment. So we were quite confident that we'd find them, because being in a kayak and canoe and small boats with no engines, we're able to go inch by inch very slowly, even with fast moving water, which in this case, the water was moving at about 4 knots. I'd say about close to 5 miles per hour, which is pretty extreme current. I mean, if you're not confident in the water, it can be work against you completely.